Welcome back. Has anything come out of the President's recovery plan, or is it simply more empty promises? Let's get more reaction to what was said today. I'm joined by Labour Market Policy Coordinator for Cosatu, Lebogang, Malaisi, and Saftu General Secretary Zwelinzima, Vavi. Thank you for your time. We appreciate it. Lebogang, let me start with you. Of course, the President has extended the social grants, which you were calling for, by 3 months only, but he has not increased the amount to 585 Rand. What's your feeling on that?
Thank you, Shahan, and thank you for having me on the show. I mean, it's a good way forward. We were dealing previously with a situation where the grant provision was going to come to an end of October. So now we've got 3 more months. I think we can welcome that. And let's continue with the work that we've been doing in the various structures, collecting the evidence base for a significant discussion on a sustainable basic income grant moving forward.
Yeah, Mr. Vavi, is that good enough, though? Because we don't know for a fact whether or not our economy will improve very much in 3 months. I mean, there's still going to be lots of people who are not making money.
And look, it's a step to the right direction, but it's not anywhere close to meeting the demands of the 80 civil society organizations that were demanding an increase first on those special grants to 585. And that they were demanding that it be extended to the end of the financial year, which is in March next year, and that it be replaced by the basic income grant, which Saftu argues must be no less than the basic poverty line of about 1,200. So we're asking for 1,500 basic income grant. But that's not what we came here for. We came to listen to the President's claim that we will be presented with an overarching recovery developmental package that will solve a crisis. And let's hurry to say, it's not a crisis of the past 7 months of COVID. It's a crisis of the colonial era, of the apartheid era, of a failed neoliberal framework that has been tried and dismally failed the poor and the working class over the past 26 years. So that's our measure. Has the President said something that he has not said before that constitute an overarching developmental strategy, a reconstruction plan that will break the backbone of unemployment, poverty, and inequality, plus corruption? In our view, the President has once again failed us because he is saying absolutely nothing new. Go back to all of the State of the Nation addresses presented from 1994, including his own in the recent period. Look at what has been the priorities of GIE, of the NDP, of ASGISA, now of this so-called reconstruction and development plan. Look at the accords that have been signed in NEDLEC, from the procurement accord to the education and training, to the green economy. Tell me what is new that you saw and or heard about today. Go back to the NEDLEC previous job summit agreements, including the investment summit itself, and tell South Africa that what we hear today is something that is different from what we have heard before. Government recognizes, at least today, that it has no capacity to implement anything, whether bad or good. It has killed the capacity. It has destroyed the state-owned enterprises, and it has played a direct role in the destruction of jobs in those state enterprises and in the economy as a whole. And today was not about a government that says, look, we have formed part of the destruction force. Yeah. We saw that 2.2 million people have now been added to the 10.8 million, and therefore we have a crisis of 13 million able-bodied South Africans who are unable to find employment opportunity and who are now beginning to look at other means to survive, including crime and alcohol abuse, drug abuse, and all of that. We didn't hear all of that. Sorry, it was the same as we listened to in the State of the Nation address. There is no emergency. The government, in our view, have reached its sell-by date. It has reached a cul-de-sac. There is no innovative thinking anymore. The poor has become just a rhetoric. to appear to be doing something when what is going to happen is basically a development of the program that is going to widen the gap between the rich and the poor.
Yeah, Mr. Vavi, let me go to Lebogang now. And the president did say that this was a rebuild guided by the 2030 development plan. So maybe that's why we're not seeing very much new, but I'm not saying it's any excuse. Lebogang, what's your overall opinion on what the president has presented to South Africa today?
So my overall opinion is that we do see it as, regurgitating things that have happened in the past. But I think we need to acknowledge the fact that we've moved a step further. Instead of the whole rhetoric of the State of the Nation address, where you'll have a large number of action items that you can't even track because there's just so many to account for, we've now seen a more dedicated and more focused effort to look at only 4 priority areas that are easily to track down the line. I think what's important about that is that it can at least give us a way forward in what we need to look at in order to build the economy moving forward. I think the key performance criteria here is how well will these 4 priority areas be implementable and ultimately result in job creation. I think that's the yardstick that we're going to use in order to determine whether this plan is useful or not, whether it does what it said it would do. And that would be, will it be able to create the jobs that you needed to create? I think we also need to acknowledge the fact that it's also centered around a lot of key social policy areas that we wanted to see in place. I mean, there's been greater effort around the infrastructural plan. This is the biggest plan to date. Again, the devil is in the detail. If it's implementable, it'll be a success. If not, then we can continue to lament. But I think we've often cried that this whole laundry list of items is difficult to track, and it's difficult for us to see what the scalability options are and what is the impact on GDP. So I think the fact that it's a smaller list of items that we can track, it's really a move in the right direction.
All right, but the key thing is implementation. It's your job to make sure it happens, my job to make sure it happens as well. Thank you so much for your time. Lebogang Malaisi, Labour Market Policy Coordinator for Cosatu, and Saftu General Secretary Zwelinzima Vavi.